I'm 82, and this is how I'm fighting my illness. My name is Clara. I am 82 years old, and I am sick. I have been sick for 3 years now, a chronic illness that lives in my body the way an unwelcome tenant lives in a house. Always there, always making itself known, always reminding me that things are different now than they used to be. I did not choose this illness. Nobody chooses illness. But I have chosen, every single morning for 3 years, how I am going to meet it. And today I want to tell you how. Not because my way is the only way. Not because I have all the answers, but because I have learned things in these 3 years. Hard, real, earned things that I wish someone had told me at the beginning, when I was still in shock, when I still thought that being sick meant being defeated. My name is Clara, and I am still fighting. I have always been a strong woman. I want to say that not out of pride, but out of context. Strength was not something I performed. It was something I lived. I raised 4 children largely on my own after my husband passed away when I was 51. I worked until I was 70. I built a life that was genuinely mine, shaped by my own decisions and my own efforts and my own stubborn refusal to let hard things be the final word. So when the diagnosis came 3 years ago, when the doctor sat across from me and explained what was happening in my body and what it meant for the years ahead, my first response was not fear, it was anger. How dare this happen to me now? Now, when I had finally arrived at the quiet good years, the grandchildren years, the garden and the books and the slow mornings years. How dare my own body betray me at 79 after everything I had already been through? I drove home from that appointment gripping the steering wheel and talking to myself the whole way. And what I said, out loud, alone in the car, was this: Clara, you have been through hard things before. This is a hard thing. You know how to do hard things. You do not lie down for hard things. Figure out how to stand up for this one. And that conversation with myself in the car, that stubborn, slightly furious, completely personal conversation, was the beginning of how I decided to fight. The first thing I did was get informed. Completely and thoroughly informed. I went back to the doctor with a notebook and I wrote down everything. Every medical term, every treatment option, every question I could think of, and many I thought of afterward and called back to ask. I read everything I could find. I asked questions that perhaps surprised my doctors because they were not the questions of a passive patient. They were the questions of a woman who intended to be a participant in her own treatment. Not a bystander, not someone things were done to, a participant. Be informed about your own health. Whatever is happening in your body, know it, name it, understand it as well as you can. Because knowledge does not make illness less frightening, but it makes it less mysterious. And mystery is where fear breeds. When you understand what is happening, when you can name it and track it and discuss it intelligently with the people treating you, you feel less like a victim and more like someone engaged in a fight, and feeling like you are in the fight rather than just receiving its blows. That matters more than I can say. The second thing I did was refuse to let the illness become my entire identity. This sounds simple. It is not simple at all. When you are chronically ill, when illness is a constant presence in your daily life, it has a way of expanding to fill every conversation, every thought, every relationship. People ask how you are and they mean, how is the illness? You wake up and the first thought is about symptoms. You plan your days around what your body will and will not allow. And slowly, when without meaning to, you become the sick person. You stop being Clara, who loves her garden and her grandchildren and her books and her strong tea in the morning. You become Clara, who is ill. I refuse that, deliberately and sometimes stubbornly. I insisted on having conversations that had nothing to do with my health. I insisted on being interested in other people's lives. Really interested, not performing interest while waiting to talk about myself. I kept my garden. I kept my reading. I kept my weekly call with my oldest friend that has lasted for 40 years and that covers everything except illness because we made that rule together and we keep it faithfully. I remain Clara, a Clara with an illness, not an illness with a Clara attached. The third thing, and this one I want every person watching this to hear, is that I asked for help. I know how hard that is. I know it is one of the hardest things a strong, independent person can do. I had spent 60 years being the one who helped, being the capable one, the one who managed, the one other people leaned on, and asking for help felt like surrender. It felt like admitting that the strong version of me was gone. But I learned something important. Asking for help is not the end of strength. It is a different expression of it. It takes courage to say, I cannot do this alone. It takes courage to let people see you struggling. It takes courage to receive care as gracefully as you once gave it. And when I finally asked, when I finally said to my daughter Susan, I need more help than I have been letting on, the relief was physical, like putting down something very heavy that I had been insisting on carrying alone for too long. Ask for help, please, whatever you are carrying. You do not have to carry it alone. The people who love you are not waiting for you to need them less. They are waiting for you to let them in. The fourth thing is what I call my daily non-negotiables. These are the things I do every single day, regardless of how I feel. Not because I always feel like doing them. Some days I absolutely do not feel like doing them. But because I have learned that the days when I feel least like doing them are the days I need them most. Every morning I sit outside for 15 minutes, just outside, in the garden or on the step or by the window if the weather is too difficult. Just light and air and the simple reminder that the world is still going on, still beautiful, still larger than my illness. I do gentle movement every day. My body cannot do what it used to do, but it can do something. And doing something, however modest, however slow, is the difference between a body that is fighting and a body that is giving in. I read every day, something that takes me completely out of my own experience and into someone else's world, a novel, a memoir, a history. Something that reminds me that human life is vast and rich and full of more stories than I will ever have time to read. And I connect with one person every day, a call, a visit, a letter. Something that places me in relationship with another human being and reminds me that I am not alone in the world. These four things, every single day, they are my armor. Not against the illness. I cannot armor myself against the illness, against the despair that illness invites, against the shrinking that happens when you let pain and limitation become the whole story. The fifth thing I have learned is about attitude. And I want to be careful here because I do not believe in toxic positivity. I do not believe in pretending things are fine when they are not. I do not believe in performing cheerfulness for the comfort of people around you while quietly falling apart inside. But I do believe, from 3 years of living it, that attitude is real. That the way you speak to yourself about your illness matters. That the story you tell yourself about what is happening to you shapes your experience of it in ways that are not just emotional, but physical. I choose, every morning as a conscious, deliberate choice, to speak to my body with respect, not anger, not betrayal, not the bitterness that chronic illness can easily generate toward the body that is causing the suffering. I speak to it the way I would speak to someone who is trying their best in very difficult circumstances. I say, you are working hard. I see that. I am going to help you as much as I can. And that gentleness, that daily practice of being on my own body's side rather than at war with it, has changed something. I cannot explain it scientifically. I can only tell you that it is real. The sixth thing is faith, not necessarily religious faith, though mine has been a comfort to me, but faith in the larger sense. Faith that my life still has meaning and purpose, even in its reduced and complicated current form. Faith that the people I love still need me, not the strong, capable version of me, but the real version, the one that is here, the one that shows up imperfectly and honestly and with love even on the hard days. Faith that every day I wake up is a day that counts, that matters, that is worth being fully present for, even when being fully present requires real effort. I am 82 years old. My name is Clara. I am sick. And I am fighting, not to defeat something that may not be defeatable, but to remain myself, fully, honestly, stubbornly myself, inside the circumstances I did not choose, fighting to keep the garden and the books and the strong tea and the real conversations, fighting to be Clara, not a diminished version of her, not a performing version of her, but the actual woman who has been through hard things before and who knows, in her bones, in her stubborn old heart, that hard things are not the final word. They never have been, not for me, not for you. If you are fighting something today, illness or loss or fear or the quiet despair that comes when life does not go the way you planned, please hear this. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be scared. You are allowed to have the days when it is too much and the weight of it flattens you and you cannot find a single reason to get up. Have those days. Feel everything. And then, when you are ready, get up. Fight in whatever way is available to you. Ask for help. Stay informed. Protect your identity from being swallowed by your struggle. Find your non-negotiables and do them every day. Be gentle with yourself. And believe, even when believing is hard, that your life in its current form is still worth fighting for. Because it is. I promise you it is. My name is Clara. I am 82 years old, and I am still here, still fighting, still completely, stubbornly, gratefully alive. Thank you for being here with me today.